Hi, you're watching Bread and Roses, a weekly political social television magazine that's broadcast in Iran in English and Persian via New Channel TV. I'm Maryam Namazie and I'm presenting this week's program with my fantastic co-host Fariborz Pooya.
Hello.
In this week's program, we're going to be speaking about the labels of infidel, of apostate that we often hear from Islamists like Murtad, Munafiq, and Kafir. And we're going to be speaking about whether these terms and labels should actually be considered hate speech. We think they should, and we're going to be discussing that. We also have an interview with the wonderful Imad Iddine Habib, who started the first council of ex-Muslims in a country where Islam is the state religion. So he'll be talking about that with us later on in the program. And of course, as usual, we will have shocking news of the week as well as the insane fatwa of the week. We hope you enjoy this week's program. But before we go into the program, let's first listen to a brief clip on what this program's all about. Stay with us. In countries like Iran, those labeled Kafir, Murtad, Munafiq, or infidel and apostates, like young Iranian Soheil Arabi, are given death sentences under Sharia law. In the West, though, such intimidating and threatening labels against ex-Muslims, as well as dissidents, freethinkers, and Muslims who don't toe the line, are seen to be a question of free speech. In fact, it is hate speech perpetrated by Islamist hate groups. Now, obviously, freedom of speech and expression are hugely important rights. They're not luxuries. And when we're talking about the unequivocal right to free speech, we're talking about people being able to criticize, poke fun at, even things that are considered sacred. But we're talking about criticism of ideas when we talk about freedom of expression. When we talk about criticizing people, it becomes a very different matter. And what we're saying is that very often we find that Islamists incite hatred against ex-Muslims and people who don't agree with them in a way that is often threatening and intimidating. But here, if you go to the police, for example, and say that you feel threatened because of being labeled Kafir or Murtad or Munafiq, the police in Britain, for example, would consider that free speech. It's not free speech, though, and that's one of the points that we're trying to make.
And I think you're right, because terms like kafir, apostates, blasphemer, Murtad, all of these, because of the political Islamic movement, have grave consequences. Because in Iran, in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, if somebody is labelled as kafir, automatically, either through state institutions or religious groups, or even vigilantes, they would be condemned to death and their life would be threatened. So effectively, such terms are threat to life. And I think that's what we need to recognize. They are very closely related to hate speech. They are violent terms that threatens people's life. So they're not just innocent terms or narratives that people use to argue. These are sort of active, threatening, violent sort of concepts that need to be very careful, which is totally different from freedom of expression. People have the right to criticize ex-Muslims, apostates, atheist, Muslim, freethinker. That's okay. Criticism is fine. People can have debate. All of those, that's fine. But terms like Murtad, Munafiq are life-threatening, and I think we need to recognize that as it is.
Exactly. I mean, I think you have to look at the context as well. The reality is that the very people who are called Murtad or Munafiq or Kafir in a place where Sharia law is the law of the land, it means an automatic death sentence if in these sort of summary kangaroo trials. And in a sense, that same, we all know that Islamism is an international movement. It does carry out its threats here in the West as well. And these sorts of labels are not, they're not just free terms that are part of free expression. And I'll give you an example of this. For example, we did a report about an Islamist organization here in Britain, the Islamic Education and Research Academy. And we highlighted all this hate speech that they've said against women, against apostates. For example, they say that apostates should be beheaded, and beheading is painless, so it's fine. And when our report came out, they said, oh, you haven't said anything that we haven't said publicly ourselves. I mean, I'll give you a quote from one of their top people. He said that, oh, yes, you're exposing our open beliefs, which we've never hidden. And because they've been able to hide behind free speech. So on social media, they did a play on my name, Namazie, and they said Jenazi, which is like a corpse. So quite comfortably and easily, they threaten people in that way. And it's intimidating. It's not like it's just, you know, a form of expression. They're not just expressing their religion. They're an organized hate group. What they say has real implications on people's lives.
Absolutely, I think you're right, and they do carry out the threats. There are many people who have been murdered on the streets of Europe. It's not just in Mosul in Iraq, in Baghdad, in Tehran, and Evin prison, and Pakistan and Karachi. They're everywhere where they have any influence and power, and they have the network. They'll carry out the threats. So it's important to take these matters seriously. They are life-threatening concepts, and they have nothing to do with freedom of expression. It's a violent sort of method of intimidating
Yeah,
people.
I mean, definitely. And I think there has been a lot of work to recognize, for example, hate speech when it comes to hate speech against people of different races, people of different religions. It's high time now that hate speech against people who are atheists and ex-Muslims are also recognized. Let's now go to an interview with Imad Iddine Habib, who started the Council of Ex-Muslims in Morocco, and hear about what he faced as someone who came out as an atheist in a country that is very often seen to be quite liberal, and a lot of people go and visit as tourists. Stay with us and let's listen to his interview. Okay, welcome, Imad Iddine Habib. It's wonderful to have you here. You were supposed to speak at the October conference on the religious rights, secularism and civil rights. Unfortunately, your visa was given to you a little too late, but at least you're in London now, better late than never. It's a pleasure to have you here with us. I mean, let me start first. You're one of, you're a well-known Moroccan atheist and an activist, and someone who's challenged religious rules for a long time, even before you established the Council of Ex-Muslims of Morocco. Tell us about what it's like to be an Arab atheist in a country where Islam is the state religion.
Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be in London with you. In Morocco, actually, it's Morocco, there's no much religious diversity as in other countries, even if it's repressive. Even in Pakistan, in Iran, in Iraq, there's more or less religious diversity. There's many branches of Islam. There's many Christian and other Jews and other religions or religious communities. In Morocco, there's only Sunnite Malikite Islam, which is the state's religion. My very tiny minority of Jews, which according to say less than 6,000 people, and it makes it so hard for people who are different in general, and especially people non-religious and ex-Muslims, to be open about their opinions and to live freely and safely in Morocco if they dared to be open about their opinions, not just on the internet or somewhere, but just to their families, to someone they know, to their friends. And I've got many stories, many sad stories about people who got harassed by their friends, their families, their colleagues at work for just expressing just a tiny idea, maybe even I would say secularism, maybe even equality, maybe just the tiniest idea. So it's really big issue.
It's interesting because a lot of times people have this impression that Morocco is quite a liberal country and people are quite free there. And you mention how it's actually what you've done, is a prosecutable offense in Morocco. Explain that. I mean, what's the reality versus the image that a lot of people have?
Yes, actually, Morocco relies mainly on tourism. among other things, and rely on international like recognition. And but like in the reality, like even on the laws, like it's punishable to shake a faith of a Muslim. Like it means just if you talk with a Muslim, why you are a Muslim, do you think that Quran is the word of God? It's punishable from 6 months to 3 years of prison. Just like or like it's illegal to form any organization or political party that like doesn't consider Islam or the monarchy or the Moroccanness of Sahara as their like as sacralities, or they disagree with them, and it's just illegal to make any posts on the internet or like in the streets or something about like talking about like against like Islam or against the monarchy. So it's oppressive, but like in selectively oppressive. So they don't oppressive like anyone who say this, and but like they do on like we witnessed like many arrests of people just for the sake of their opinions.
I mean, you mentioned also that there are people who you heard from who were atheists who suddenly disappeared and you have no idea what happened to them. You know, it's important, I think, for people to realize how difficult it is actually to say that you're an atheist, and you know, that it has real repercussions. And also for you, I mean, what happened to you in particular as well?
Yeah, actually, like for like generally, like for people, like when like we are on Facebook or Twitter or any other social media, like people are with fake names because they can't like Moroccans actually are de facto Muslims for the law and de facto Muslims for the family. And for others people, like when you meet a Moroccan, you like the first thing he will think about you're Muslim. So it's an options actually. Either like pretend to be Muslim and just like pretend to abide by laws of the country, or be open about your opinions and you get harassments from your family, from everywhere. Like actually I got like harassment from my family, from society, from where I studied, and from like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of death threats and everything, just because I was open about my opinions on social media. And like it's like really sad to see this. Like people are just pretend to be Muslim just to stay because they have ties in Morocco, because they can't leave Morocco, because they love Morocco, they're Moroccans. But still the Moroccan society, predominant culture, doesn't accept Moroccans as a as diverse religious communities, by stipulates that they are either to be Muslims, Sunni Malikist Muslims, or they not part of this Moroccanness, if we can say.
I mean, there was also the ulamas, the Council of Ulamas issued a fatwa against this. Explain that. What happened exactly?
Actually, when we founded the Council of Ex-Muslim, which was an answer like how we label ourselves, because we were like in that, like as Albert Camus said, like when you live somewhere where there's so many chains, like to express yourself, your own existence become rebellious acts. And that was it. Like Council of Ex-Muslims is just a pledge to exist. We are here, we're living here, we're Moroccans, and we do recognize that we are Moroccans, and we do not like share the same religious affiliations with the majority. And just later, after like weeks after that, it was published on a newspaper that the Council of the Supreme Council of Ulamas published a fatwa stipulating that any Muslim, and actually by saying Muslim in Sunni Malikite Islam, it's anyone born from a Muslim father. So he's de facto Muslim, and even if when he grew up and tried to change his religion views, he's an apostate for this. And any Muslim is like if he changed religion, he should be executed and killed. And that's like it's like and what is funny is unsaid in the same time. It's like this Supreme Council of Ulamas is presided by the King of Morocco, and with the Minister of Religious Affairs, and with the heads of the local councils of ulamas, like local councils of ulamas. So it means that the state actually gave a reason even for people to harass you, even if they won't kill you. Actually, they will like give people a free pass to harass you and to beat you and to hurt you physically. Actually, which is I think we couldn't like accept it.
I mean, what do you say to people who would tell you that you shouldn't have started the Council of Ex-Muslims of Morocco, that it was better if you had just stayed quiet and hid your atheism?
Well, I think that Europe like relies on all those people who like died, and those people who was persecuted, from Galileo to Voltaire to Jean-Jacques Rousseau and others that like they were open about their opinions, and their books was like burned, and they were like killed or burned alive, like Bruno and others. Those ones who created like shake the fundamentalism, European fundamentalism. And I think that like the Islamic world needs peoples to shake that fundamentalism and to come up. Actually, there's so many people that like lost their faith in the Islamic world by it just like I would say really difficult for them to come out, because like when you come out and it's like you put in mind that maybe one day you can't live anymore in this country. You'll leave the loved one, you'll leave everything you love in this country because of your opinions. So that's why it makes it so hard for people to come out.
Yeah.
So
do you regret doing it then, given the fact that you faced so much problems and persecution as a result?
Actually, what I regret is the reaction of people. Like I know them. Religious affiliation is a human right, and anyone is like should have the right to believe what they want, to reject what they want. And I think that like the state, the religious Supreme Council of Ulamas, and the society doesn't do what they should do to promote a culture of diversity in Morocco, on the Islamic world generally, a culture of diversity and a culture of citizenship. And what like makes us Moroccans is citizenship, and not religious affiliation, and not what we eat and what we think about, or something else.
I mean, just as a last question, you mentioned the fact that Facebook is one of the only free places available to a lot of Arab atheists across the world. Why is that? And, how important has that been in this rise and explosion of atheism that we're seeing across the Middle East, North Africa, and places like Iran as well?
I won't say there's an explosion of atheism in the MENA region, Middle East and North Africa. I would say there's more people who come out from the closet and say, here I'm not religious, because there've been always people like that, but they lack the freedom to, and they lack maybe the courage, because there's no freedom, but they lack the courage to do so. And we see our brave Egyptian friends harassed and arrested all the time, and even like people like Karim Amr, like whose family testified against him in a court where he went for 4 years in prison for just being open about his opinions and being critical to the government and to the religion. Actually, I think that Facebook and social media gave a free place, free from the laws, even if actually in Morocco it's a crime to criticize monarchy or criticize Islam, even on Facebook. But they just like apply it from people who are not really known, and we have no access to know like how many cases were like judged by these articles in law, unfortunately. But there's many people who are harassed, who are interviewed, who are like visited by secret police because of what their activities on Facebook or Twitter or other social media. But like in Morocco, it's illegal to form any association, any political party have any meeting about anything without informing the authorities, without having multiple or infinite like authorizations to make this. So Facebook is an instant, is having like an instant effect, an instant impact. It goes viral. It's open to the whole world. That's what makes it so powerful, and that's what would make it so risky for people who are not like with the mass surveillance that applied more or less in the Islamic world.
Yeah. One last question. I know I said the last one was the last one, but what can people do to support atheists in places like Morocco? People like in Europe, in Britain?
I think that actually we should like give those people a chance to live with their religious belief without being harassed, without being concerned about their lives, about their like we're human beings, like about their basic human rights, and and have an option to live in their country, to live in their countries, even with the difference of opinions, etc. I think that there's more work to do on the Islamic world to install a culture of diversity, of difference, and that religious values, that individual values enrich the society, and not like we have in our oppressive societies, that the society values that should be applied on everyone.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I think your case in particular shows how important, how much effect one person can have, and also how important it is to support people like yourself in creating a change and helping to create societies where people will be able to say that they're atheists without fear. Thank you, Imad.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed that interview with Imad Iddine Habib. I mean, I think one of the major points he raises is the fact that there is a lot of pressure, both in places like Morocco, but also in Europe, for us not to say that we've left Islam, that we're ex-Muslims, because they consider it insulting to Muslims. And it shouldn't be that way, because the reality is that people have a right not to believe in religion. They have a right to be atheist. And it's important for them to be able to express that right in the same way that people say that they believe in Islam. Why can't other people say that they don't believe in it? You know,
it's amazing that suddenly, as soon as people leave Islam, it becomes, you know, the intolerance suddenly emerges, and people get upset. People sort of think that, you know, that they've been insulted by the fact that. But that shows that the religion itself is so intolerant. It can't accept any dissent, and this intolerance not only is directed towards people who leave Islam, but people actually who within the religion itself they think different, slightly differently, and I think this is a key issue. And I think we need to recognize it's extremely hard for people, very brave people, I must say, in countries where Islam is dominant in social life and has a state power, or has very organized sort of link with the state. That becomes really threatening, and lives of these people is under constant threat. And there are so many brave, but at the same time, people are very brave. There are so many atheists, there are so many people who actually leave Islam on a regular basis, or they do not adhere to
and they need to be
religion.
Supported.
Absolutely.
Now, rather than telling people to be quiet,
yes,
rather than saying don't mention it because you'll offend, you should be saying well done. You should be screaming this from the rooftops. The more people do it, the more comfortable others will feel to do it, and the more space will open up for this sort of resistance. And I think what's important is this is not just the right to believe as you want, the right to leave religion. This is a direct challenge against extremism and Islamism, and I think we have to see see this fight also within that larger context.
And I think it's very healthy to have dissent, very healthy to have beyond dissent. I think it's good for society, for any improvement in people's life. I've said this before, you have to have apostasy, you have to be able to criticize, and it's good. The more people question, is the better society.
Better for everyone.
For everyone,
yeah.
Even for the religious.
So I think rather than trying to tell ex-Muslims not to stop saying that they're ex-Muslims, we should actually focus on the Islamists and tell them to stop perpetrating hate against ex-Muslims and everybody else. We've reached the end of this segment though. Let's now go to the shocking news of the week. Stay with us. In the shocking news of this week, we're going to be talking about the young Iranian blogger Soheil Arabi, who's actually sentenced to execution merely for speaking his mind on Facebook. He has Facebook pages, including one that is against superstition, and he now faces execution as a result.
Yeah, absolutely, and he hasn't committed any crime. Punishment of Soheil Arabi is punishment of every single person who has a page on Facebook. I think everybody who's a member of Facebook should actually feel at one with Soheil Arabi, and they need to support it. I mean, there should be a huge international campaign to save his life. He hasn't done anything wrong.
Yeah, anyone, and it could be any one of us. And if we lived in Iran, it could be any one of us, or lived in countries under these sorts of really medieval rules. There's a petition that's going to come at the bottom of this page. Please join that petition, sign a petition, do anything you can to defend Soheil Arabi. He hasn't done anything wrong. The crime is actually to execute people merely for speaking their mind. Let's now go to the insane fatwa of the week. In Insane Fatwa of the Week, we thought we'll focus on Christianity because there's a lot of crazy religious people out there, and not just Islamists. There's an Arizona pastor, his name is Steven Anderson, and he's basically come up with the idea that we can get rid of AIDS and have an AIDS-free world by Christmas if only gays were executed.
I mean, it's crazy. I think this is exactly the sort of things that the mullahs in Iran, in Saudi Arabia and Egypt regularly discuss on TV, and they deny the existence of the first thing they do, and the President of Iran did, existence of the gay people, you know, and that the fact that this gentleman, shall we call him, in Arizona demands execution of gay people. That really should be really concerning, and you could see that there's so many of these crazy people around.
Yeah, I mean, again, this goes back to the whole concept of hate speech, isn't it? It's so easy for people from their religious pulpits and their Friday prayers to make such proclamations that have real impact on people's lives.
And I think you shouldn't be surprised that somebody takes that seriously and takes action against gay people. Yeah. And we see that in the same way that in Iran, when the mullahs from the Friday prayer they say that people who do not observe Islamic hijab, they are committing crime against God. So a crazy person goes and picks up acid and throws it in the face of a woman. This is exactly the same thing. Yeah. So the religious are very intolerant, and they need to be stopped.
There's a direct link between this sort of hate speech and what happens to people in their real lives. We've reached the end of our program. I hope you enjoyed this week's program. Of course, we'd love to hear from you. You can send us videos, short video clips, which we could upload and comment on. Please send us ideas on issues and topics that you want us to cover. And also, you can recommend people you'd like us to interview. We'd love to hear more and more from you. It's helpful, you know, when we're sitting here doing a program. It's lovely to hear people who've watched the program write back to us, contact us, tweet us, comment to us on Facebook, because it helps us to try and improve the program, so it'll be even better for you. Anyway, we hope you have a wonderful week, and until next week, have a lovely time. See you then. Bye.